to me, Goose. Are we in the botulism danger zone because we're canning low acid foods like green beans or these potatoes, or we're eating raw honey from here on the homestead? Well, the short answer is no. And if you give me a couple minutes, I'll explain why. I guess we've probably all heard the horror stories about somebody's cousins, aunts, and grandma that poisoned everybody at church with a bad batch of potato salad. And we've all been told not to feed raw honey to infants under a year old because botulism. But to understand what all the fuss is about, we really need to know a few things like, what is botulism? How common is it? And what can I do to prevent it? Well, botulism is actually the illness that's caused by the ingestion of botulinum toxin. Botulinum toxin is produced by a very common anaerobic spore-forming bacteria called Clostridium botulinum. And when I say common, I mean it's everywhere. It's in the soil, it's in the water, it's on the plants, and it's in the intestines of our farm animals. So if we're talking about root vegetables, it's going to be, you're likely going to have the botulinum bacteria on the vegetable and then the crevices of vegetable. If we're talking about an above ground produce, it's likely going to have botulinum spores on it. So if this stuff is in the soil and it's on our food, why aren't people dropping like flies right and left? Well, the answer to that is the botulinum bacteria itself isn't very tough. It doesn't like too much heat. It doesn't like too much oxygen. It doesn't like too much salt. It doesn't like too much acid. It doesn't like too much sugar. It doesn't like to compete with other organisms. I mean, I think you get the picture. And when conditions are bad for the bacteria, it will form a spore that contains its DNA, and that spore will remain dormant until conditions get better. Now, in our context, what that means is the low oxygen, low acid, low salt environment that could be found inside of a can or a jar of improperly prepared foods. Now, as scary as that seems, really, it's only the toxin that we have to worry about. A healthy adult, the gut biome is too inhospitable for spores to develop into bacteria and cause a problem. Now, babies are different. Their gut biome isn't as fully developed as ours, and the ingestion of spores can cause them to get sick. So really all we have to do is heat our foods up to 185 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes, and that is sufficient to destroy the bacteria and the toxins. So heat the food, no bacteria, no toxin, no botulism, right? Problem solved? Well, kinda. See, we still have to deal with the spores. And unfortunately, the spores are a lot tougher, and they require heat in excess of 240 degrees Fahrenheit to be destroyed. And that's where pressure canning comes in. Now, pressure canning, that process allows the temperature inside of the jars to reach that 240, 250 degree Fahrenheit range, and it destroys the bacteria, it destroys the toxin, and it destroys the spores. So when that canning process is complete, what you're left with is a heat sterilized jar. The contents are heat sterilized, and it's an airtight seal. That is just like the commercial process. Obviously, it's a much larger scale when industrialized. And so that's really all we have to do. Now, I'm not throwing shade on water bath canning. We do both of those here at Mountain Heart Homestead. I'm just trying to explain why the USDA recommends pressure canning when you're dealing with low acid foods. Your kitchen, your rules. As long as you're using a tested strategy, I think you're gonna be fine. Now, if you've canned some foods and you're still a little bit nervous, there's a couple things you can do. Number one, inspect your jars. You should be inspecting them anyway. Check your lids. There shouldn't be any bulging or unsealed lids. Look at your food. If it's a canned product, it shouldn't be bubbling like it's fermented. That would indicate bacterial growth. If you see any really off colors or you smell any odors, something went wrong in the process, and throw that out. Don't eat it. Secondly, you can reheat your food. Look, we're homesteaders, we're not animals. Heat that food to 185 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes is going to kill any bacteria in there, and it's going to denature the toxins, not going to cause any problems. And since we're healthy adults, our gut biomes are going to be able to resist any spores that you might accidentally ingest. Now, the third thing you need to do is just enjoy your healthy home canned produce. Look, if you've made it this far, you like, share, and follow this page, we'd appreciate it. Also, let us know in the comments if you'd like us to go live and talk more in depth about stuff like this or home canning or any other homesteading topics. Lastly, take care and happy homesteading.